Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 13.6 Fireworks Part 2. It's been a while since we've actually done a proper one of these.
Yeah, I know. I was so lonely last time and sick.
It was actually astounding though when I was listening back to the recording, because you start out like sounding like seconds from death. You're like, hey guys! And then the second the story begins, you're like, let's go.
I got some strength from the narrative. I didn't want to disappoint. But yeah.
It's like you were going hollow, but you reached a bonfire.
Yeah, I finally made it, thanks to Aetheral Space.
Ember.
Yeah, my throat gets all wacky when I'm sick. But I'm pretty much better now. Like, there's still a little bit of phlegm in my nose, but like, I don't even feel that sick anymore. And the secret was I slept for like 13 hours. I would just go home and immediately sleep until the next day at work for like 2 or 3 days.
That sounds like hell, but I'm glad it helped.
Yeah, I literally slept one day for like 13 hours, and I woke up like, this is a normal amount of sleep. Like, I wasn't too tired or too awake. It was like, this was just...
This is how humans were meant to live.
Yeah, like lions. Lions actually sleep longer.
Yeah, lions have lions. Post in the comments if you liked that little joke. Hey, didn't you hear me?
Oh, sorry.
I said, post in the comments if you liked that little joke!
Guy who turns on his echo dial.
The God filter.
I love the God filter. Okay. Alright, let's do this. Sorry, my mouth is so fucking dry. I have no idea. Oh
yeah,
my
this is
god.
what saliva is for.
It doesn't help. Ugh, my mouth is fucked. A light at the end of the tunnel. A toy Muzazi had always wondered how such a thing would feel. He hadn't expected menace sinking deep into his bones. It wasn't that they were unprepared. On the contrary, they'd made meticulous preparations for this day. The majority of the phases were here with him, in the hallway leading to the stadium proper, ready to strike back at any assassins lured out by the promise of an easy kill on the air. A humanoid lump of Ioneer Yggdrasil was accompanying them, clad in a cloak just the right height and size to be a disguised Aklima. I can hear you clicking away. Fix it!
I'm sorry, my child.
I'm trying to hear! Were anyone to attack them now, in this last vulnerable moment out of sight of the world, all they would accomplish was the exposure of their malice. All the while, the real Aklima was safe in a secondary location, with Morgan and her personal guard. Hang on, sorry. Yes, that was the reason Atoy Muzazi was doing this. He swallowed one last time, lingering before the blinding light that led to history. He'd worn a white ceremonial uniform for this occasion, from the age of Gale the Golden, with a crimson cape fluttering behind it. That was the impression he wanted to give here. A Supreme that cared. A Supreme that looked down before he took a needless step. It was all very ceremonial. A ceremonial sword at his hip and a ceremonial pistol strapped to his leg. Neither of them he would need or use, even if an enemy did make themselves known. All the power he needed resided within him. He clenched his fists and was surprised to find them slick with sweat. He defeated so many adversaries, conquered so many obstacles, and yet the eyes of the galaxy were still enough to strike fear into his heart? He was surprised. Just a few minutes until the ceremony began proper. Just a few minutes until he began directing the rails of his life in the direction he needed. Just a few minutes until either success or failure became inevitable. It was Marcus is, what's-his-face's dad.
Yeah.
Muzazi, Marcus muttered, standing next to him. His keen, cogitant eyes were fixed at the darkness on the other side of the tunnel, the direction they'd come from. Muzazi followed his gaze. There, framed by the black, loomed Nail Manrin. Nail's a cogitant?
No, Marcus is.
Oh, my bad. His unkempt antlers nearly scraped against the ceiling as he stared, red eyes glaring into gray. The red coat he wore was a targeted thing, like it had been shredded and reassembled countless times, a parody of the pristine cape Muzazi wore. This was a man who had been through it, clearly. Finally, as if to match Muzazi's unused blade, some kind of musical instrument hung limp from Manrin's hip. A guitar? Muzazi wasn't familiar. It's a shamisen! Put some respect on its name, Muzazi!
No!
Muzazi, you uncultured bitch! What do you want, Mr. Manrin? Muzazi called out, his voice echoing down the corridor. This isn't your entrance. Now Manrin didn't answer straight away. He just continued to stare with dull eyes, as if looking right through Muzazi. It was strange. Despite the reputation this man held, He had a peculiar lack of presence, as if the slightest breeze would scatter him to the wind. So this was the King of Killers. It could be my entrance, Nail finally replied, his voice low and husky, barely audible. Maybe I want it to be. The other faces around Musashi stiffened, but he held up a hand to quiet them. You wouldn't, he asserted, his own gaze steady. You're not that foolish. Nail raised a stark white eyebrow. You think I'd lose? I've neither fought you nor seen you fight. I really couldn't say. Musashi spoke calmly. But even if you did manage to eliminate me here, you'd only be making yourself a primary target for the other contestants. After seeing how far you were willing to go before the matches, they'd have no choice but to kill you in self-defense. Nail blinked placidly. Maybe I'd just kill them too. Musashi ignored those words. As I said, this is the first time we've met, he declared. But by reputation, I know you're not a frivolous man. Why have you come here, Nail Mandarin? Nail's eyes slowly scanned the body of the full moon up and down, calmly taking in every detail, a movement mechanical in its efficiency. The smirk that curled Mandarin's lips, on the other hand, was not. Funny, he mumbled. What's funny? Nail let his head fall to one side, that tired smile never leaving his lips. I was going to ask you the same thing, Atoy Musashi. Why have you come here? Musashi blinked. The same reason as you. I compete to... Not the same reason as me. You want to become, supreme. But why? Is my audio showing up alright?
Yeah, it's fine. Sounds fine.
It looks quieter when I'm speaking as male on the thing.
As male? You usually talk as female?
As male. As male. Not the same reason. Nail Mandarin had some other motive for participating in the Dawn Contest. I can, however, hear every breath you take on the microphone. I'm sorry. That's something I hear. It's okay.
Is this better?
Yes, immensely so.
Okay, you can still hear me talk though?
Yes.
Okay. I'm about to put it further away from me.
That's all it took. Does a man need a reason? He asked. Nail glared. A man has a reason. Musashi adjusted the position of his hand just a bit, just enough that he could bring out a lightning-fast radiant if he needed to. Then again, this Nail Mandarin was a man who concealed everything about himself. What better weapon to meet him with than the truth? He opened his mouth. I'm going to become a true supreme, because someone must. Someone must follow the example of the first. Someone must follow the example of Gale. Someone must guard after the people as they are sworn to. This world is sick, and for too long, false supremes have amused themselves by playing in the pus. I intend to be the cure. As he spoke, Musashi got more than a few glances from the phases gathered around him. Was that a twinkle of approval in Marcus's eyes? Ash Deldurin's stoic expression was as unreadable as ever. The roll of Gregory Hazard's eyes was just as expected. But those words were not for them. They were for Nail Mandarin. The King of Killers' smile spread out into a mirthless and unsightly grin that did not reach his eyes. Not a display of joy, but a display of teeth.
Just a good smile.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Your mouth is full of shit, Mandarin said. And without another word he turned and stalked away. It was only when he'd vanished into the darkness that Musashi finally let out the breath he'd been holding in. For a man with so little presence, Nail Mandarin could surely make his malice known. Would his aura hold up? Who knows? Azrael joined Nail halfway down the hallway, ducking in from an alcove and matching him step for step. Which one's Azrael?
There's a new character.
Is he new? Okay. Sorry, my mouth is so fucking dry. Oh my god. 3 months ago, the second in command of the Crimson Carnival had been the newest recruit of the Crimson Carnival. Maybe just had been the newest recruit. In that time, he'd learned Aether.
It's a contrast.
I see. In that time, he'd learned Aether, forged the special ability that was the Carnival's trademark, and strengthened it until he was second only to Nail himself. So, Azrael asked, looking up at his supposed superior, what did you think? He cut a distinctive, if monochrome, figure as he strode through the tunnel. Long Long black hair and chalk-white skin, with a face full of piercings. His eyes were just as pale as his skin, lacking pupils, making it difficult to tell just where he was looking. A black shirt far too big for him brushed against the floor like a robe, the logo of a bug punk band adorning the front. This guy front-loaded what his fun fact's going to be about.
I've already told you about bug punk, that was a previous fun fact.
What was it?
It was a musical genre where they used the sounds of insects.
That's cute. Nell glanced down at him. About what? Atoy Muzazi, you were interested in him, weren't you? Nell grunted non-committally. That made up about half of his vocabulary these days. Azrael didn't much mind. It gave him less to worry about while he was basically running the organization. Doesn't matter. The words finally emerged from Manrin's mouth. We've got a job to do. Is everything ready? Azrael nodded. On your signal. Fine. You'll know it when you see it. The two of them vanished into the darkness, their intentions unknown, but anyone who knew them could easily have guessed. They were the Crimson Carnival. They were assassins. They killed for money, and nothing else. The roar of the crowd was like the crashing of a wave. When the three wise men had made their appearance, a reverent hush had settled over the masses, but the arrival of the contestants themselves had been enough to break that. No displeasure was visible on the massive faces of the three holograms, however. This was permissible. No, more than that. It was essentially part of the ceremony itself. They had to show the future Supreme that they were loved, after all. Atoy Muzazi kept his head forward as he marched dutifully towards the stage that had appeared at the center of the arena. Some of the contestants, like that chicken punk man, were doing their best to... Chicken punk! Were doing their best to grandstand to the audience, throwing out poses and boasts. I love that idea that they fucking are anime posing on their podium. Like, that's completely normal behavior. That's what celebrities should start doing, I think, is like anime posing on the red carpet. But that was not the impression Muzazi wanted to give off. That would be awesome. You have to show me that. He would be a supreme of responsibility and duty. Otherwise, all of this was pointless. Haha, he said duty. Not everyone was as extravagant as Chicken Punk, but few remained... Your mouth is full of duty, says Nail. Not everyone was as extravagant as Chicken Punk, but few remained as focused as Muzazi. Dorothy Iroh offered the crowd a casual wave as she made her way to the stage, then smiled at Muzazi as their eyes met. There we go. What's that? Have you ever seen Princess Diaries?
No, but I know what you mean, I think.
The like little wave they try to teach the Princess Diary lady. That little like side to side wave. I'll find the clip later. He looked away towards the metal cage being escorted across the stadium from him. Escorted across the stadium across from him. Across. Mm-hmm. Two armored guards accompanied it, stun spears clutched in their hands.
I'll make it.
It was there you go. It was disgraceful that Palatine, the monstrosity, was being allowed to participate. What strings had the absurd weapons lab pulled to bring their experiment into the fray? So Jester created this, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, how did that happen?
It's a awakening that stuck around.
Alright, and this isn't the awakening he brought with him on the ship, right?
No. Everyone's actually like, what the fuck are they talking about? Who's Jester?
They don't understand the extended universe.
They don't understand Jester Mail.
Now you know what? I feel bad. I used to always be like, extended Star Wars, there's just too much. I don't get why people are into it.
None of that stuff is actually going to be involved in the story now.
What strings had the absurd weapons lab pulled to bring their experiment into the fray? Even if some Supremes had been cruel, they were still human. A thing like Palatine sitting the throne would be unacceptable. T-Lin Jade, the dead preacher, raised his forearms in greetings as he... in greetings... Oh, that makes sense because it's forearm. Oh, that's weird. As he strode resplendent across the arena. Is he like forearms from Ben 10?
He's the blue guy.
Okay. He wore nothing but a waistcloth. Oh yeah, this is the guy who like had a dude covered in flowers, and he was like, I'm T-Lin Jade. He wore nothing but a waistcloth, leaving the eyes that dotted his muscles free to flick this way and that, inspecting the area around him. Yet another monster to be wary of. Some gene tyrant heard about Argus, or whatever. What the fuck was the name of that giant?
I think it's Argus.
Yeah, Argus, and they were like, oh, I'm about to go off. The only man who truly matched Muzazi's focus was the man from the past, Meriloko. The brute was short but strong, body tense with muscle, dull eyes staring forward as he walked with utter placid relaxation. It was the kind of comfort to be wary of, the kind that could be possessed only by those truly confident it would never be broken. Xander Rain, the young head of the Tree of Might, made a valiant effort. You might want to turn your mic volume down just a crumb, because it's like picking up a bunch of sounds. Just a crumb. There you go.
I've not done it. I didn't touch it.
That's worse now. You sound... There you go. Yeah, for a second it was really worse, like the quality went down. That's better, though. Xander Rain, the young head... Hello?
Hi.
Alright, he's alive.
What do you mean I wasn't saying anything?
Xander Rain, the young head of the Tree of Might, made a valiant effort at regality, but the paleness of his face against his traditional grey war robes gave the game away. Nervousness, but an understandable nervousness given his age. The ultra-traditionalists of the Supremacy often rallied against age barriers for combat, but even so... Nail Manrin, the assassin, the king of killers, his ragged red coat billowed behind him as he walked, a cigarette dancing between his lips. Despite their confrontation just a few minutes ago, he didn't so much as look at Musashi. Had he already lost interest? None of them gave him pause. They were powerful enemies, to be sure, but that was what Musashi had come here for, to prove they were something he could handle. But then, of course, there was... It's kind of fucked that, like, Dragon was supposedly this big criminal and no one cares because he made it through the melees.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there was Dragon Hadrian. He walked in from the opposite side of the stadium, and he had the same grace as Mariloko, grace born from utter belief in oneself. You should have a fucking scene, like when Gojo gets captured by Kenjaku, of Musashi being like, my soul says otherwise. I know you're not your god. And then the words like, ooh, creepy, how did you know? That's not my twink. His lips were tugged upwards into the slide. His lips were tugged upward. His lips were tugged upwards into the slightest smirk, and his blue eyes shone slightly. A stark white business suit made it seem like he was almost glowing as he made his way to the stage. How long had it, presumably?
Yes,
how long had it been since they'd last seen each other? 2 years now. 2 years since Musashi had felt that pressure, that supreme pressure from Dragon Hadrian. If Bone Heaven was any indication, he'd only grown since then. So is this the real Dragon now if he has that pressure?
Well, he's not felt any pressure. He's just saying that, it's pretty scary about that.
I see. One by one, they assembled on the stage at the center of the arena, ready to make the pledge. They stood in a large circle, each contestant at safe distance from the next, facing outwards towards the crowd. Tiny flying recorder automatics flew in, hovering under their mouths as they spoke the words to themselves. Their words would not remain their own. This was the pledge, after all. The words that gave this whole thing significance. It would not do for one voice to be out of sync, or too quiet, or too muffled. Not a blemish could be allowed, and no one's going to do this. I know how people in the Supremacy are. There's no way they would do this right. So it was that when those words were repeated so many times louder from the floor of the arena itself, they were changed. Voices slowed, voices quickened, adjusted in whatever way necessary so that they spoke as one and with strength. A chorus enforced. Wait, they actually follow these rules?
Well, they say it, and then it's like, they edit it to make it sync up.
Oh. Live?
Yeah.
Oh, those editors should be paid overtime. Their will rumbled through the earth. With this hand I become supreme, said the arena of the absolute. With this hand I strike down the unworthy, the false, the inferior that would lead all to ruin. Rex watched and listened with great interest as the pledge vibrated through the air around them. He'd seen archive footage of previous opening ceremonies to prepare for this job, but there was a difference between watching through the distance of time and actually being there. Despite his best efforts, a shiver went down his spine. You know, he said, leaning in towards Ruth next to him, according to history, these were the words that old Azez said when he took Azum. Victory speech, you know? Ray glanced away from her camera and her shoulder towards him. She looked annoyed. What with the noise of the pledge, Rex hadn't realized he was still audible. Hopefully he hadn't ruined the footage. The last thing they needed was trouble with the employer. Ruth didn't respond. It was doubtful she'd even heard him. Her gaze was fixed right on the dot that was Dragon Hadrian. Who is speaking this? What voice? With these eyes I discern what can be and what cannot be. With this tongue I inform the world of its proper order. With these feet my march becomes a drum that leads my subjects to greatness. Jamilu scowled from within the crowd, his expression a stark contrast to the cheering faces all around him. This pledge. They were just words he knew, but they still boiled his blood. This was the philosophy of the supremacy. A philosophy that had devastated his homeland for nearly a century, that had driven their best and brightest to become the old demons of the dawn. This was acid pouring from rotten mouths. Deep within the spear, he could feel victory's rage at every syllable. It was a rare occasion when he found himself in sync with the infernal. From my back sprouts a tree of might. The tree of might must go off at this part.
This is what they got to
grow, to grow through the workings of the world and fix each aspect in its proper order. My blood is its sap that will never spill. My flesh is the food for my legend. My name is superseded by my aspect. All through the crowd, figures drifted. Anonymous faces and false names positioned here, carefully organized long in advance. They did not listen to the pledge. Their attention was elsewhere and divided, each focused on a different contestant, each line of sight unbreakable. These were not admirers succumbing to obsession. These were killers acquiring targets. I am supreme, the power over all the world. I am supreme, the father and mother of mankind. I am supreme. And that is all that must be said, except for all those parts before. As the pledge came to an end, the cheering erupted once more, this time with such ferocity that Muzazi couldn't help but wince at the sudden shift of volume. He supposed it only made sense. As so many people were saying these days, this was history in action. Everyone wanted their voice to be distinguishable among it. The first shot rang out, tearing through the noise for but a brief moment. The signal for contestants to begin leaving, one by one, each a minute apart. This was the first and last time they would all be together in one place. Palatine's escorts took it away as the first contestant. From deep within the metal box, Muzazi heard two sounds, an inhuman screech and a cacophony of mocking whispers. Not for the first time that day, a shiver went down his spine. Bang! 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 One by one the contestants left, disappearing into the same tunnels they'd entered through. Even as the stage grew emptier and emptied, however, the cheering from the stands didn't abate for a moment. The Dawn contest had officially begun, after all. There was much to celebrate. Do you have, like, the Discord crisp sound cancel thing on?
I assume so.
You right next to where the hang-up button is in the bottom left is a noise suppression.
I'm sorry.
How am I hearing all these noises? I don't know. It's not you. It's just, like, distracted. One by one, cheering from the stands. Okay. Bang! Contestant 17, Atoy Muzazi, began his stride back to the tunnel. Again, he didn't look at the other contestants or the crowd. There would be no showmanship from him. He would show them why he should be supreme with his actions alone. He crossed the threshold between arena and tunnel. Crack! And for the first time, turned his head. On the stage, still elevated, Nail Manrin had stepped forward. Red aether coursed chaotically around his arm like a sheath of light, the crawling of the crimson sparks audible from their sheer strength. Without a word, he raised that arm up, and a lightning bolt of aether surged up, piercing through the clouds and, for a brief moment, leaving an after-image like a thin, scorched tree. The crowd went quiet just for a second, and Muzazi too regarded the sight with confusion. What exactly had that been meant to accomplish? Before he could question further, however, before he could step back, the doors to the tunnel closed, sealing him in darkness. Was that the Lichtenberg pattern?
It could be, I guess.
You said thin, scorched tree, that's why I thought that. I don't know if you've ever seen the pattern.
I know what you mean, yeah. It's that sort of thing. Yeah, it's like a lightning sort of strike.
Ooh, what's he up to? He's channeling his energy. It's like when Pikachu uses thunder in Pokemon.
He's trying to turn Ash back from a statue.
Alright, so... so you've already told us about Bug Punk, so let me look back at our Aetheral questions. Also, can you say Pikachu like that again?
Pikachu! He's super pathetic.
it's like Pikachu. Pikachu lost his job or something. It's so sad.
Can you imagine Pikachu be like being called from the end? By Psyduck.
Sorry,
Pikachu!
Alright. We have some questions. Real quick, Aklama was a test tube baby, right? Or did she have a surrogate mom? Like, did someone give birth to her, or was she literally grown from a test tube?
Grown from test tube.
Okay, that's what I thought. People thought I was insane. Okay, so we can skip that one. Here's a question. From Quaker, she asks, how often do people who don't have Aether join the Dawn contest?
It's
What's the
very,
furthest
very,
anon?
It'll be very, very rare.
What's the furthest a non-Aether combatant has ever gotten?
Well, the Dawn contest is the 32 tournament, so it would be very difficult for someone to beat 200 other Aether users without Aether to get there.
Right. So probably never then.
No, never. Unfortunately,
not even like a Neverwire head like Macedora.
No, unfortunately, not.
That's a shame. Arthur asks, how extreme is censorship in the Supremacy in UAP?
It depends on the individual territory. As you get closer to the center of power, you'll probably get not necessarily censorship, but propaganda drowning out dissenting voices more. So the information is still accessible, but it's sort of buried underneath other stuff.
Oh, like SEO censorship.
Exactly.
Okay. Quaker has a question that I had a proposal to, although I'd also like to hear your take.
Oh my god.
Quaker asks, what's a popular sitcom in the AS universe? And I don't know if you saw my idea for one, but I thought it was cute.
Tell me about it.
So the idea, in our
Aether user loses Aether, right? Yes.
Well, it's like everyone loses Aether, so it's like this special officer has to live a normal office job, and his old rival works at a rival company now, and they try to outdo each other, and just getting accustomed to normal life again.
Well, one popular sitcom as well is basically one. I don't know the name. I can't think of the name on the top of my head. It's a good name. It's based on a deep space outpost. It's like a listening station. And it's about because these are incompetent special officers who have been exiled here for fucking up, and it's about their relationships and how much they fuck each other over every day.
So wait, is this Find Us Alive? This sounds like Find Us Alive from what I've heard of Find Us Alive.
I don't know.
Let me think of a name. I'll maybe Border Space, All Quiet, not All Quiet on the Western Front. Maybe Signals, and it's because of all the relationship, there's Signals.
I like that.
And they're on a radio station.
Stray Signals.
Stray Signals, there you go. Oh man. Who's the densest motherfucker on Stray Signals? Who's just not getting it?
The main character.
He doesn't know. JT says, "What are some?"
His name is
Charlie Boone. Yeah, there is. Charlie Boone just doesn't get any of the signs, and everyone's like, "Charlie, please."
Did you see the Taizagatsu special episode where she was a special guest?
Yes! Oh, please make that canon.
it's like fucking family, and we go, "Oh my god, Taizagatsu!"
Yeah, the ratings skyrocketed. JT asks, what are some cool holidays other than Gene Tyrant deaths?
Well, once the Dawn contest ends and there's a coronation supreme, that coronation becomes a holiday for as long as they are reigning.
Nice. Alright,
And generally that's when all the stations remember how good the Dawn contest was for this guy? Let's go back over it.
I think we got through all of them.
Wow.
We did it.
We're gonna survive? They're gonna find us alive?
They're gonna find us alive.
They will never find you alive. No one says they're gonna kill you. They say no one's gonna find you alive.
No one will find you alive. Nail Mandarin steps out. I'm an assassin. Alright, we'll see you guys next time.
Nail Mandarin kills you. You're like, I just wanted order.
Is Nail Mandarin an Assassino? Does he have Assassino in his crew? Please make Assassino a character. I just wanted order.
Well, Assassino doesn't say that. That's the guy Assassino kills. That's Templar.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. What does Assassino say? He says, I just wanted chaos. God damn.
Okay,
he's just pure aura.
See you later, guys.
Bye.